Hey everyone, it's Hannah. I wanted to quickly ask if you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way in getting the show in front of other listeners. If you listen on a platform that doesn't do reviews, please follow us on social media, like the show, or leave a comment. Thank you. We love you guys, and we hope you enjoy the show. You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katy.
Welcome back. Get past that, and we're here. I was telling Katy that I was listening to last week's episode, and I thought we did the opening a little soft, so I was trying to correct for that. Truly, I was listening to it to make sure we didn't sound stupid when we were talking in the beginning.
I'm sure we sound stupid a lot.
Sometimes I think back on things, and I'm like, wow, did I sound really dumb?
Cringe.
And then I'll go back and listen and be like, okay, it wasn't maybe that. It wasn't... So that's what I was doing. I was just
listening for the cringe fact. It's like going back and rereading, your old journals.
Except this happened a week ago. And we've let everyone read it already. Well, I've made up for all of my episodes on doom and gloom. Because I promised Katy a good one that's not about murder. And no one dies. Certainly no children die. Yeah. What else was I going to say?
I can handle, the really dark, intense stories. It's just, I need a.
It's a little palate cleanser.
I need well balance. Oh, speaking of palate cleanser, I ordered these sandwich cutters, to make, the Uncrustables. Mm-hmm. It came with a whole bunch of jokes. I keep meaning to... I know. Random. But I was like, oh, I'm going to bring these... for just to have as palate cleansers in case we ever get too
I like that.
Too, dark and heavy. I can just pull out and be like, what do you call a cow with no legs?
Ground beef.
Ground beef.
Nice.
That was the first one on the stack. I haven't gone through the rest of them. Hopefully Shelton hasn't thrown them away.
Shelton?
He doesn't listen.
I know that. He doesn't listen. Just throwing it into the ether and hoping it gets to him. Well, we are leaving Illinois, finally.
We'll be back, I'm sure.
We will be back, I'm sure. In fact, I'm certain, because I've already planned to go back there.
Which a state I've actually never physically been to.
Me neither. I've never wanted to until I've wanted to visit Amanda.
Yeah. No, I think we're going to have to add just... the state of Illinois in general to our bucket list road trip. I really do think that we should do a road trip one day.
We should.
And
we'll hit all the places on our way to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Cannot get it right.
So yeah, in my dream road trip scenario, it's just you and me, a laptop, and my cheap stupid USB portable microphone that we tried that one time. It was terrible. And we're just driving to places, having a good time in the car. Might record some bits of things, and then we'll go visit places, and then we'll record after our visit, kind of recounting
Yes.
our visit there, and it would be great to go to Illinois, see Amanda.
Yes.
And a couple of just random places that we've talked about in there. On our way to San Francisco. Of course, in this dream scenario, it is a dream because it's not real, because there's no way we could do this with husbands and children. Both of which we have husbands, and
we could leave them behind.
But do you really think they'd survive until we got back?
I mean, mine would. I just have the one.
Yeah.
For now. I don't know. Could you get a family member down to watch yours?
Hey, Ma.
Dorothy.
You would come take care of my husband and kid.
Come fund our road trip
for like a week and a half.
Oh, man. Yeah, we can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just have a couple boxes of wine that we take with us.
Yep.
It'd be great.
Couple boxes of wine. Couple tubes of red lipstick.
Yes. A couple tubes of red. We're going to be going through that shit.
We'll just be applying it constantly. Well, it comes off when you're eating your Cheetos and your other road snacks.
And obviously, we'll be leaving messages.
Oh, yeah. I think we should definitely, kiss a lot of napkins in bars and write the tales we tell. Little lipstick prints there.
It'd be so obnoxious. I love it. Yes. Well, my one announcement that has to do with Illinois is another pronunciation correction from Amanda, which is, I pronounced this town Joliet.
Mm-hmm.
It's pronounced Joliet. So wrong on that again. Sorry, everyone. Anyways, my second announcement is just the Christmas schedule, which I didn't discuss with you, but I think it's fair to say that there will not be an episode on the 27th. Okay, so are you ready for what I'm going to tell you about today?
I am.
I'm so excited for it. Okay. Well, I don't know if I want to start with a question. Here's the thing. I love this topic for us because I know that you're my cynical buddy. And this is a phenomenon that
Oh, do I get to poke holes?
Oh, we will be poking holes all over it. I want this to happen to me.
It could be like bubble wrap. Just poke.
So badly. Have you ever heard of a time slip?
I'm trying to get the lyrics right of the Time Warp. It's been a while since I've sung it. Actually did a music video for it in high school. We had a class it was a theater class, and we had to do a music video. So my friend Sarah and I did Time Warp.
Nice.
But no, time slip, not that phrase, but I can kind of guess at what it means, and
okay,
maybe I've heard of it in a different, with a different word or a different name.
Do you want to guess, or do you want me to tell you?
Do you want me to guess?
Sure.
Okay. Time slip is kind of along the lines of like a deja vu, where you're like, I think I've already lived this again, except it's not that. It's where your perception of time kind of shifted and you slipped out of our current time.
Yes, kind of. So it is...
It's hard to explain.
It is when someone is momentarily transported to a different time, accidentally or through unknown means. So it's a kind of time travel. It's like within the time travel umbrella. Usually time slips are only like for short periods of time. This is not like you are now stuck in 1841. And it's usually not something that can be repeated. So this isn't a Stephen King situation where you found a portal in the diner and now you go back to 1962 and just you can keep doing it over and over again. It's just like you've stumbled upon it, it happens, and you don't really understand it, and you can't make it repeat, whatever. It's also often used as a plot device in a lot of sci-fi or fantasy stories because it's really convenient because you don't have to explain time travel or time machines or anything.
I actually have started plotting out a novel that involves some time travel like this, but it does involve not a machine. I mean, technically a machine. It's a clock. But yeah.
I also had started plotting something out a long time ago that I didn't know the term time slip, but I realize now used a time slip because I was like, oh, this is easy. What if they just walked out the door and it was suddenly 1888 or whatever year?
Outlander.
Yeah,
kind of, but she does go back and forth.
Yeah, she could kind of figure that out. But that's a good example of, like, I think kind of how people realize that they're suddenly in well, I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time. Anyways, so a lot of times people...
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll wait.
Okay. A lot of times people will report feeling a heaviness or a change in the general feeling or atmosphere right before they realize that they have stepped into a new time. And there's also a lot of times reports of an unnatural stillness or an unnatural silence, either right before or like right after this realization has been made.
So I think I've mentioned before that my Roman Empire
Yes.
is time travel.
Yes.
It's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about, and like randomly out of nowhere, I'm like, our existence is merely just a blip of consciousness on the timeline. So, like, you know that saying, yesterday never was and tomorrow never will be. Mm-hmm. It's great, and I kind of like it. And so, and I think of, it's kind of like that, mixed with, you know, in Back to the Future, where Doc Brown is talking about timelines, and then by changing something, they've put themselves on an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
It's all of that kind of stuff jumbled together. But my thing is, if you just draw a line from beginning to end, and you know draw a little dot somewhere on the line, everything before the dot. So I'm the chalkboard. You're looking at me.
Okay.
Everything before the dot has already happened. That's history, and everything after the dot is future. Except it also already exists. Basically. Everything is already written, and that dot is just your consciousness. You're just alive in that moment.
Yeah.
And you're just traveling here.
Does that mean
that's you're just experiencing like, this moment. And like if you think of like a line of photographs and like, okay, you know, here's this still photograph and your consciousness comes into it, and the photograph comes alive with a moment or whatever. And then your consciousness continues down that line to the next photo that then comes alive, but then as your consciousness passes, it just goes back to being a still photograph. So by having a time slip, your consciousness just blips from this spot on the line to a different spot on the timeline.
Yes.
And you're just there for a little bit and you're like, oh, just kidding, we're back to where we're traveling here.
Yes. My question...
This is what I think about all the time.
I love it. Okay, so now I have another question for you, which is if you could time slip to anywhere, meaning go back for, let's say, 10 minutes. And I say, okay, let me rephrase that. If you could time slip to any time, because time slips are also like, you're not traveling locations.
Yeah.
Where or when would you go? I've had the luxury of being able to think about this for an hour when I thought of the question.
I mean, I know more or less immediately where I'd go. I'm trying to narrow down to any kind of specific anytime to spend more time with my mom.
Yeah.
Sorry, giggling so I don't cry. Literally 10 more minutes in her presence.
Yeah.
Would be the best thing ever.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make this
It's
sad.
okay, sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I'm a Debbie Downer. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Also, the 60s sound really interesting. I like the music. That sounds like a
also,
good answer.
1771 was a great year also. Oh, that was a good answer. So sorry about that.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want to be a bummer, but I'm also going to be honest.
I mean, that's a very honest answer. My answer was going to be like the 40s to meet my grandparents when they were young, or like when they were my age. So, yeah.
I mean, I'd go back to when my mom was, in her 20s.
Yeah.
Or even her early 30s, just to, even if I don't get to really interact with her, just to, see her, get to see her as, a person. Because, I never, you hang out with your mom now.
Yeah.
Sure, she's still your mom, but she's also a person. You get to know her as a friend as well as, your mom. So, like, I never got to know her or never got to see her as anything but a mom.
Yeah.
Which she was phenomenal at, by the way. Totally crushed it, the mom game. But, she's also... all moms are more than a mom.
Yeah.
They're also people.
Also humans.
So...
nice.
That's, yeah. Shoot, I'd be happy to just go anywhere at any time, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially if I only had to be there for, like, 10 minutes. Because, like, even if I ended up in, I don't know, a concentration camp.
Yeah. Your 10 minutes is...
I think I could theoretically survive 10 minutes there.
If you got there at the right time.
Yeah. Depending. Potentially. I mean... mentally and emotionally, I could survive it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you a couple stories of alleged time slips.
Sweet.
So I'm going to tell you 2 stories of time slips that are, like, more or less, I'm going to say true time slips, meaning, like, they fit the description of what a time slip is. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to tell you one that's just kind of for funsies, because it's silly.
Okay. Silly, kind of like the woman who was married to a ghost?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
It doesn't really fit time slips. It was like at the bottom of the Wikipedia page for, like, time travel, and I clicked through it and, like, found another article about it, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I get to it, and
okay.
And I was like, oh, this is too silly not to tell Katy about. So
we got to talk about this.
And then I have to tell the world, so here we are. Okay, so the first one is called the Kersey time slip. So it is 1957. That is our present day. We have not time slipped there. Well, we have, but
you and I
it's
have.
Present day for these 3.
The star of our story.
Yes. The star of our story are 3 Royal Navy cadets who are 15. What did I tell you guys?
Yep.
What did I tell you?
Yep.
A little early for him to be home.
No, it's 7:05.
Yeah, because that's... Stop it! We're recording!
Oh, he's at the back door.
What do you want?
I want to be let in.
Go in the front!
I'm right here.
Go in the front!
Why are you there? I'm not letting some psycho in the back door.
There's a reason we keep that door locked.
That's right. Gosh, I even do my job of double checking to make sure it was locked.
Good.
Too.
I'm glad you did.
No, I said I didn't do
Oh,
my
you
job.
didn't? Oh, well, I locked it.
Thank you.
It doesn't really close all the way properly, so locking is a way to keep it closed. What a psycho.
I'd be pissed if it was unlocked and he did come in because it would have scared me. I knew he was going to come in and say, Kelly! I knew it. I've never been here when he's come home, but I just knew that's how it would be.
Did that not sound like that door, though, that was rattling?
It did. It 100% sounded like, that's why I was looking over there.
That freaked me. Okay, that does freak me out a little bit that it sounded so much like that door. Yeah. There's not someone else in the house, is there?
Well, I was also worried that, his voice muffled through the door.
Uh-huh.
Because when I realized he was at the back door, I was like, is Connor here messing with us?
I hope not. That is some shit that they would do, though. Although, we would have heard Kelly, I think, if someone came in. Right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's not question it.
Jeez.
Let's tell ourselves yes.
Yes. Okay. So 3 Royal Navy cadets who are 15 years old, which seems young to be in the Royal Navy, but I guess not.
What year is this again?
1957.
Yeah, no, I feel like
I don't know
what the your Royal Navy's
maybe it's like their
standard is, but I feel like at that time they weren't taking younger than 18.
Maybe this is like their version of the ROTC.
Maybe.
I don't know. But it is October. It's a Sunday morning in October. And they are taking part in an orienting exercise. Mm-hmm. So following a map to a specific location.
Okay, so definitely, so like cadets, yeah, definitely like a military school or JROTC.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because, yeah, orienting,
okay.
it's like a, Boy Scouts advanced. Yeah. It's like Eagle Scouts thing.
Like JV Boy Scouts. Okay. And this is in Suffolk. I almost said Suffolk County. Maybe that is what it's called. It's in Suffolk, in the Suffolk countryside in England.
Yes, it's in England.
And the names of the boys are William Lang, Roy Baker, and Michael Crowley. So their objective was to find the village of Kersey, and they were following their map, doing their Boy Scout thing, and they found where it was supposed to be. And as they approached it, they heard church bells, and they could see a plume of smoke from behind the hill, like it was just over the hill. They could see some smoke, so like evidence of homes. But as they began to climb the hill, they all began to get like an uneasy feeling. And then they noticed that it became eerily quiet. So the church bells stopped. They didn't hear any birds. The wind stopped. They didn't hear anything. And then suddenly they couldn't see the smoke anymore. They also noticed that the trees, which it was October, so the whole hike, everything had been like autumn colors. Mm-hmm. And now the trees were bright green, like it was springtime. So when they get into view of this village, they find that it is completely empty. There's no people, no cars, no signs of life at all. There's also not any telephone wires. There's no TV antennas on the roof. Like, no signs of technology.
Not very modern looking.
Not modern at all. And then the houses and all the buildings they were like timber framed, looked hand built, thatched roofs.
I was waiting to say thatched roofs. You don't get to say thatched very often, and it's just a nice word. Thatched
roofs. One of the boys would later describe them as, quote, almost medieval in appearance. And they decided to approach one of the buildings because they were curious. And so they approached this building, and it appeared to be a butcher's shop. Now, I don't know if there was a sign indicating that or not.
Probably just meat hanging up, visible in windows or doorway or whatever.
Well, let me tell you. This is what they
Please do.
This is what they described as being on the inside. Quote, there were no tables or counters, just 2 or 3 whole oxen carcasses, which, by the way, 2 or 3, which one is it? Is it 2 or is it 3? Hard. Anyways.
Well, yeah, if they're the whole carcass, you should be able to...
Not hard to count.
say. Now, if it's
pieces, I can get that, but...
Yeah.
Is it 2 or is it 3? Anyways. It's not like 7 or 8. It's... Sorry. Okay. 2 or 3 whole oxen carcasses, which had been skinned and in places were quite green with age. I remember that as we looked through that window in disbelief at the green and moldy green carcasses...
Green and moldy green.
That might have been a misquote. I don't know. The general feeling certainly was one of disbelief and unreality. Who would believe that in 1957 that the health authorities would allow such conditions? So that's the first building they look into, which I was a little confused by the no tables or counters. So I'm like, are there just skinned oxen on the ground? And that's all that's in there?
That seems very strange.
That seems strange to me. So then they approached another building, which appeared to be a home. And they looked through, quote, greenish, smeary windows. So I don't know why the windows are green. But the windows are made of glass. And they said the interior was completely empty. There wasn't any furniture or anything. The walls appeared to have been, quote, crudely whitewashed. And the rooms were not of modern day quality. So just empty rooms, no furniture.
How did they see? Did they look through multiple windows? Multiple green windows?
I guess. I'm kind of assuming maybe they looked through and there was, maybe they're looking into, I don't know, like a hallway and you can see multiple rooms. I don't know. So William, who was like the leader of the group, would later describe an overwhelming feeling of sadness and depression and one of, quote, unfriendliness and unseen watchers that came over him, at least. And he would say, quote, I wondered if we'd knocked at a door to ask a question, who might have answered it? They did not knock on a door.
No, instead they were just peeping Toms.
Yeah.
Peeking in through windows.
But at this point they were like kind of freaked out, so they left. They were like, we're going to leave this creepy, empty town. So they left really quickly the same way that they came. And as they were going back over the top of the hill, they heard the church bells again. And when they were back over the hill, they could suddenly see smoke coming from the chimneys. Everything, like stuff started seeming normal
again. Did they go back over the hill again and everything was fine that time? I
don't think they went back and looked. They just went straight back to their base. And when they were there, they told their,
scout leader.
Yeah, whatever, about it. And they said that they just kind of laughed it off. And they're like, well, you found Kersey, so, you completed the assignment.
Here's your badge.
Yeah, whatever. We don't care what you found when you were there. You just got the right location. They didn't really speak about it again until the late 1980s when William and Michael reconnected as adults. And Michael didn't really remember a lot about it, but it had stayed with William and really bothered him a lot. So they would talk about it, and Michael didn't remember a lot, but he did recall a couple key details. So he remembered the really eerie silence that kind of overcame everything. He remembered that there was no technology at all, no wires or anything. And he remembered the weird butcher shop that they found.
But did he remember if there was 2 or 3 oxen?
Apparently not. We'll never know if there were 2 or 3. So,
those are big animals.
I know. And if they're whole, I would think 2, because how are you going to fit 3? But I don't know. One of my favorite paintings at the North Carolina Museum of Art is of a meat counter, and it's got this sounds really morbid that it's one of my favorites, but it's got a skinned ox head there with a bunch of other, it's stylistically very pretty, not because I like looking at skin.
Not content.
Yeah, whatever. So Michael eventually wrote to Andrew Mackenzie of the Society for Psychical Research, and he put forth the theory, Mackenzie did, that the men had experienced a time slip, or what they would call a retrocognition. And he actually would eventually write about it in his book, Adventures in Time. And Mackenzie decided to do a bunch of research, and his research and Michael's recollections, they came to some conclusions, which I disagree with some, but we'll, whatever. So they found out that the butcher shop that they had visited had been a private residence in 1957. But it had actually been a butcher shop before then, and it had existed as a building as early as 1350.
Cool.
What are you looking
at? Time Warp lyrics.
Okay. I was making sure you weren't spoiling something for yourself.
No. It was driving me crazy. Every time you say time slip, I know it's Rocky Horror Picture Show. Time Warp lyrics. With a bit of a mind slip. Or no, with a bit of a mind flip, you're into the time slip. Those are the lyrics I was trying to remember.
Okay.
Sorry for anyone who several minutes ago when I first brought it up was like screaming the lyrics at me. I got there.
I just I wasn't trying to be rude. There was just something you could have looked up that would have been a potential spoiler for you.
No. I'm still waiting for you to let me know when I can look at my dog CA.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
So the butcher shop was actually a butcher shop at one point, not in 1957. The fact that the boys hadn't seen a church when they were there, they had heard church bells at first, then they stopped. They hadn't seen a church. The church in Kersey is apparently very prominent and would have been very, like, you would see it. That church was built in the 14th century, or it was started in the 14th century. So we have that fact, plus the fact that there were no people around, plus the fact that there were glass windows in the homes and the buildings. So Mackenzie took those three facts and concluded,
kind of triangulated, like, well, it had to have been could not be any earlier than this time because of the glass windows.
Yep.
Could not be any later than this time because of the church.
Yep. He did exactly that. So his guess was around 1420, which I disagree with, but we will get to that. Well, I'll explain. I think you'll disagree too. So the church's construction had been halted between 1348 and 1349, and apparently had still not been finished by 1420, which is 70 years later, which seems like a long time. But the reason that construction was halted was because the Black Death came through and killed a bunch of people.
Hence the sadness and depression.
Hence the sadness. It also killed half the population in Kersey, which he thinks explains the lack of people that they saw. But he also thinks that by 1420, the town had recovered enough and gained enough wealth from the wool trade that many people would have been able to afford glass windows, which were rare at the time. I think those two facts contradict themselves. If it's recovered enough and we're wealthy enough for glass windows,
they would have seen people.
But we're devastated enough that you're not seeing people because half of us died. So I think that's a little off. But I think that's also semantics, where we're like, does it matter what exact year we found?
Yeah.
We're nitpicking here. I think the bigger picture is that you might have stepped back several hundred years. All of that aside, there are some logical explanations.
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay, so I want you to look at your first picture in your dossier.
My dog CA.
Sorry, your dog CA. There's dogs on the folder, guys. That's why she calls it that.
Yeah, it's not like I'm stupid or something. I mean, I probably am, but... Okay.
Okay, this is the town of Kersey.
Very, very old world village. Like,
yes.
Imagine, just say, a village in Europe.
Yes.
Bring that into your mind's eye. Now, go pull up our Facebook or Instagram and look at this post, and I guarantee that these first couple of pictures of, houses or buildings in this town are probably pretty damn spot on to whatever you just thought of when I said a European village.
Yes.
And if you don't know our Instagram, It is the Tales We Tell podcast. Same thing as our Facebook. And if you want to see the photos but you don't do the social media, check out our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. I'll do the rest of it later.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Okay, so
These are actual buildings in Kersey.
yes, these are, I took these straight from Google. I stole them from the Google. Kersey is very old. It dates back to at least 900 AD.
Nice.
With a lot of, I wrote man buildings on here. I think I meant to write handmade, hand-built. What do I mean to write? Well, a lot of old buildings dating to medieval periods. So timber-built, thatched roofed buildings, etc. Also, the town wasn't wired for electricity until the early 1950s. And when it was, the Suffolk Preservation Society fought to have all of the lines hidden either behind buildings or underground to preserve the historic skyline. So, if you and I were to go to Kersey, we would also see...
We would also feel that we've traveled through time.
To some extent, yes. We would also be seeing...
I mean, we'd probably see cars.
Yes. But we would also be seeing very old buildings and no telephone wires or anything. Which is a little freaky. And I imagine if you were to encounter that on a day when no one else is there, and for some reason there's 3 skinned oxen in someone's empty house.
It's going green with mold.
That would be...
Next to someone else's green... Or not next to someone else's empty house.
Yeah. So... That is...
So, it's funny. You're like, oh, my cynical friend who's going to help me poke holes. And I'm like, no, I'm actually willing to believe that they did travel through time.
Yes, I love this because I think they did. Okay.
So, this is actually surprisingly not something that I take a lot of issue with.
I love it. Because I have my theory at the end. I also have unexplained details and then my theory. Because I have one more explanation.
I mean... To go with the whole poking holes side of things, if they were coming over a hill, they are clearly kind of on the edge of town or on the edge of the village.
Right.
Now, I don't know how much of like an outskirts it was, or if it was like a thick village and then just kind of like a hard stop.
Uh-huh.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
They kind of crested this hill. They're in this town. How far into the town did they wander? Or did they just stay, like, over by these few buildings that they could see?
Right.
That, yeah, maybe it didn't look like anyone was there because everyone was at work.
Yeah, well, it's a Sunday morning.
Oh. Everyone was at church. And the church bell stopped because...
It was done being that time.
Yeah. Church bells ring and then they stop ringing.
True. Yeah.
Not because you've traveled through time, but because the bells are like, okay, we're done now.
We're done ringing.
We're done doing our thing.
We ring for a finite amount of time.
So, maybe they just... And if they only looked into these 2 buildings, like, yeah, sure, maybe they didn't see any cars. Depending on the size of the village, maybe not everyone has cars. Maybe not everyone needs one. Like, you can just walk to everywhere in the village. I don't know. Can't really explain the whole rotting oxen carcass thing.
Yeah.
And, if there's one empty house, like, it could be that people just have moved and, like, this is just a...
Yeah, that could just be kind of a one-off thing.
Yeah.
It's not like they looked at, like, 12 houses and they were all like that. Yeah.
Right. And again, this is like edge of town, probably because they didn't say we walked into the city center and there was nothing.
Right.
Nobody around.
Right.
So, I mean, they've got a very skewed,
they have a
sample.
small sample size. Yeah. So,
as far as like indicating if people are there and whatnot. And so, like, I would love to, like, I can definitely, I remember being in Argentina 6 years ago now. Thank you, Facebook Memories, for making me nostalgic to my international travels. But there were several places in Argentina that I'm like, wow, I feel like we've, like, just walked backward in time. Because, sure, yeah, there's a super modern car parked, on the street, but everything else around looks very old.
Yeah.
And very European, thanks to
Yeah.
the Germans that settled there. And then there's the penis fence.
Ooh.
Quick sidebar, I think everyone's going to enjoy this. There's a park in Montevideo. Actually, this is in Uruguay, not Argentina. There's a park that this architect or builder was hired to, build and design. And ultimately, he kind of got, stiffed on, the agreed upon, like, okay, this is what it's going to cost. Okay, time to pay me. And they're like, no, we're not going to pay you all that. And so he's like, oh, you shouldn't have told me that before I finished, because now I'm going to do a big double finger. And she, the tour guide pointed out, she's like, the fence, does it resemble anything familiar? And we're all just kind of like looking at the fence and then looking at each other like, we all see something, but we don't want to say it and be like, oh, you perv. No, it's a dick fence.
Like,
it is a shaft and balls, like just the fence,
like the posts.
Yeah, like
look
it's a wrought iron fence, and like how some
Nice.
wrought iron fences are very decorative and whatnot, and like they curve this way and they curve that way, and there's like decorative curls and whatnot. No, it's a penis and balls.
Nice.
And it's just like a line of.
I love that kind of petty.
Yes.
That's kind of petty.
And I was like, this is fabulous. And I remember that because it was hilarious. And then that was like the last stop on our tour. And up to that point, I had been like just dragging. And I'm like, it's not jet lag. It's a 2-hour time difference. Why am I so tired? And then we went to a parrilla and we had blood sausage as an appetizer to our main course, which was a platter of meat.
Okay.
It was red meat. It was just short ribs and like a flank steak and strip steak. It was 3 different kinds of steak on my plate and nothing else.
Okay.
And it was amazing. And at the end, Shelton was like, okay, can we go back to the Airbnb and take a nap? I'm like, no, let's go. I finally have energy. I'm finally excited to be here and explore.
Oh God, we're very different people. I'm like, I have the meat sweats thinking about that.
And meanwhile, my body is like, I'm getting excited thinking about the iron.
I know, you're like, all the iron, I need it. I'm like,
I want steak. Give me red meat. God, I'd be a pescatarian if I could, but clearly, physically, my body gets excited about the idea of steak. God, that's terrible.
It's okay. I think my body's rejecting all sugar now, which is really fun for me.
Oh, that's just getting old.
I hate it.
It sucks.
I
Right?
had a cookie today, and like 1 minute later, my body was like, "That was stupid of you. You want to feel like for the next hour?"
We didn't ask for that.
I was like, "Fine, I guess I won't have any more sugar this season." That's a lie.
Yeah, I'm like, how are you gonna manage the next couple of weeks like that? Don't you have 2 different Christmas parties at work?
I do. Well, we already had one.
Okay, that's good.
I also have 2 different Christmas parties, like, over the next 2 weeks. I have the one this weekend, and I have one next weekend.
And then we've got red beans night, but have no fear.
God.
It's just red beans and cornbread. I'm sending you home with it, and
then I'll go to my mom's house. Although there, I will mostly just drink wine and eat Chex Mix.
God, Chex Mix.
Homemade Chex Mix. Scrabble. Oh.
God. My dad and I always make Chex Mix, but I'm like itching to make Chex Mix now. So I'm like, do I go ahead and make some and have some, or do I have to wait until he's here?
No, go ahead and make it. And then hide it from everyone. You know the great thing about making it yourself? You can exclude all the shit you don't like. Mm-hmm. And if I had the money to just include cashews and pecans and not do like a whole thing of mixed nuts, I don't want those water chestnuts.
Well, I don't put water chestnuts in there.
I mean, like, that's in
water chestnuts.
That's
whatever. That goes in stir fry.
What are the thing I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
Whatever. I don't know. There's something in
the mixed nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't mind if pistachios are in there, because those come in the mixed nuts. It's the peanuts. I'm so sick of peanuts.
Yeah. I don't put pretzels in mine anymore.
Oh, no, we only do... So my dad and I, we do our, the 3 Chexes. The trinity of Chex.
Yeah. We substitute one for Crispix, though.
No, we do...
Name brand
wheat,
only.
rice, and corn Chex.
Okay.
And then we do a can of mixed nuts. And then a can of cashews.
Nice. Double cashews. I like.
Yeah. Because the mixed nuts is like 60 to 70% peanuts.
Yeah, it's stupid.
A handful of pecans, some cashews, a few Brazil nuts.
Brazil nuts, that's what I'm thinking of,
That's what
not
I
water
thought you meant.
chestnuts. Sorry.
I'm like, that's a very different thing. Water chestnuts is not even a nut.
Brazil nuts. Anyway. Brazil nuts. Also, I just thought...
Wild tangent here.
What would be very good is a bowl of homemade Chex Mix, and then my dad also always gets chocolate-covered Bertie County peanuts. Take a handful of those, sprinkle that into the mix after it's already made. I don't want to be mixing the sauces and stuff. Sprinkle that in, have my glass of red wine.
Salty sweet.
Sit on the couch. I'm going to try to get my dad to watch From the Earth to the Moon. Since Jarek won't watch Band of Brothers with me, our traditional Christmas series, says it's too depressing. Whatever, we watch it every Christmas.
Are there Christmas lights in that series?
In Band of Brothers?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look.
If there's ever a scene with Christmas, you gotta tell me, are they colored lights or white lights?
I know. Now I'm trying to think. What color are the lights in the Grinch? Colored? Those are colored.
There's a mix of colored and white.
What is your theory again? Colored are gloomy. Okay, colored
depressing.
Depressing.
Gestures to our multicolored Christmas light tree in our studio.
With a skull underneath it and mug shots above it.
Depressing.
Cheery. Nostalgic. I call these nostalgic. Comforting.
Dark, sad, gloomy. No, it's not warm and comforting. White Christmas tree lights. Warmth. Comfort. Happiness. Family.
What color are the lights in Christmas Vacation?
I think he has a mix too.
Okay. I know the ones in Christmas Story are colored.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one in a long time. I'm just telling, again, like, think of any movie, doesn't have to be a Christmas movie, any movie that has any kind of a holiday setting, even if it's just a couple of scenes that are centered around the holiday. If they've got, a Charlie Brown tree with a couple of, with a string of lights, they're colored.
Yeah.
And if they're like single, sad, and alone and spending the holidays on their own, or they walk into, the Chinese restaurant with no Christmas decorations except for a small tree like this with colors.
I think the white lights are like classy. Those are like the classy put together.
Classic, traditional family home, family Christmas. I'm going to have to go watch a whole bunch of Christmas movies, but also just try and find movies that, they're not Christmas movies, but there's scenes in them that go through Christmas. And I'm telling you, like, if it's a sad, or like if there's any kind of, if they're trying to emphasize that the character is alone for the holidays, or like it's a depressing time, or add darkness to the movie, colored Christmas lights.
You should do like an AI generated thing that's just like alone for the holidays and see if it comes up with colored lights.
Yeah,
I'll try that.
It will.
I have a thing that does that I think I can do like an AI generated photo on.
Also, this is the first year that because we have a pre-lit tree now, that we haven't had colored lights. I grew up with colored lights on my tree.
Oh.
But it was colored lights and white lights, so it was a mix.
Oh. I've always
I'm not hating on colored lights, and I'm not saying anyone who prefers colored lights on their tree is sad or alone or depressed or whatever.
Yeah. I like them both.
I'm saying I think it's used as a plot device, or like a set dressing device to emphasize the tone of the set of the scene.
Yes.
Where I think the white lights are used to emphasize the warmth, family, happiness tone.
Yes.
Whereas the colored lights are used to emphasize more of like a darker, gloomy, sad, depressing.
True. This is true.
Come at me.
We'll do some research and circle back.
Do some more movie night research.
I know. Okay. The other logical explanation for what happened in Kersey is something called derealization, which is a psychological condition in which the real world seems unreal. Mind you, this is now another mental illness that I have to be worried about.
Seems odd that all three would have a mental issue.
Yes.
Illness at the same time. And only for this brief time.
Well, I will go ahead and tell you that Roy does not remember anything strange happening that day. So William and Michael are the ones that, like, remember. And then, what did I say? William?
Really
Michael was...
really stuck with him.
William. Yeah, sorry. William was the one that was like, I remember this. Michael was like, I kind of remember it. Roy was like, nothing weird happened at all. I don't remember anything strange. According to the Mayo Clinic, my favorite reference source for all medical things, symptoms of derealization may include feeling like your surroundings are not real, like you're living in a movie or dream, thoughts about time that are not real, such as recent events feeling like the distant past, being more aware of your surroundings than usual, and unrealistic thoughts about distance and the size or shapes of objects.
Okay.
And one of the things that they mentioned, they reference another case, which I'm about to tell you about, where someone said that the trees seemed flat, like they didn't have any dimension. Uh-huh. And when, I think it was Mackenzie, the guy from the Society of Psychical Research, when he mentioned that to, I think, Michael, he was like, yeah, that's exactly what it was like. And that was described in one of the symptoms. Like, sometimes, you can feel like your surroundings look two-dimensional and, don't really seem real. Also, symptoms would usually begin in the middle or late teenage years if you were going to be seeing symptoms. And also they can, from what I read, I have like a 30-minute knowledge of this. From what I read, you can have short, brief bouts of like symptoms, or you can have like longer bouts and it be like a problem that you need to have treated. So it could be something where, like, I don't know, maybe he's had a couple of these throughout life, but not enough that he's sought help for them or found it to be a problem. Or it may just be like a one-off thing. Or they may have gone back in time, which is what I like to believe.
Okay, so part of the reason that I am not like, oh, this all sounds like a crock of shit to me, is because I have not experienced time slips in the sense that I have been like walking along and then all of a sudden I'm in a different time. Mm-hmm. I have experienced, I am just doing normal things like picking out clothes, hanging in my closet that I'm gonna wear, or looking in the mirror to do my hair or something. Just mundane, everyday, nothing special things that I then get this overwhelming sense and like physical sense of discomfort, dread, and it's really hard to describe. The best way that I've been able to explain it as, it feels like something has triggered a memory, or I have temporarily mentally been transported into a mind of like a past life. I was a different person at a different time, and has experienced something very traumatic. Basically, it's physical assault, essentially.
Right.
Is that just overwhelming, like, this sense of my person has been violated.
Yeah.
And it's usually that. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a overwhelming sense of I'm someone else. So it's like a quick, more like I remember a past life.
Yeah.
Than a actual time slip,
Yeah.
because it's like a quick momentary flash followed by a lingering uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And that's something that I started feeling in my early teens. Mostly happened in like my teens, sometimes in my 20s. And I haven't had it in a while, but it does still happen.
That's interesting.
And yeah, so it's, like I had it before my first actual sexual assault experience.
Right.
So I'm not remembering that.
Interesting.
So yeah, like I said, I don't think it's exactly time slips.
Yeah.
More so, I would explain it or liken it more to remembering past life experiences. But they just hit me out of nowhere.
That's crazy.
Like, you would think it would be something else. Sometimes it's, smell is like the strongest sense that's tied to memory. Because I can't tell how many times I've been out somewhere and I just get a random whiff and I'm like, that transports me to, this time and place, but it's a time and place I've actually experienced.
Right. Yeah.
So, like, not a time slip.
Yeah.
Just
a memory.
Bringing a memory to the forefront.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's never anything like that. It's just it comes out of nowhere and it hits real hard. It's like a flash and then just like getting hit by a really strong wave. And like being out in the ocean, you get hit by a really hard wave that knocks you over and then it kind of tumbles you around under the water for a while. It's that kind of feeling of disorientation, discomfort, and dread, and kind of fear, like, am I gonna drown? Or am I gonna surface and breathe?
Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't know that about you. Wow.
I'm very odd.
At first I thought you were just describing like I don't know, like the anxiety that I get. That's just like, I was like, oh yeah, I also sometimes just get like overwhelming dread associated with, mine is just like, I think I have forgotten something to be anxious about. My brain is just like, you're supposed to be worried about something.
I get that too. 100%.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot.
That's what I thought you were going for. And I was like,
but that's very different.
But yeah, but no, what you described is very, not something I have experienced. But.
It's sometimes to the point where, like, I've had to just kind of stop what I'm doing and, like, physically, like, just kind of curl in. Like, I've been standing, I can remember standing at the closet, going through clothes, and just being like, oh my gosh. Like, I just, like, crouched down and, like, went fetal to just make myself as small as possible. And it's like, I could almost, it was like, when something's on the tip of your tongue?
Yeah.
It was like that. I could almost remember. It's almost
like a dream that you can almost remember, but you can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I remember the feeling of it, but I don't remember any of the details.
Yeah. Man, you should do a past life regression or something. But cautiously.
I don't know. I've clearly either lived one or multiple very traumatic past lives. But honestly, if I've lived any past lives as a woman, I've definitely experienced trauma every time.
Fair, I know. I'm like, we're in the best time ever for women, which is not great.
It's
Still
really
not great.
Saying something for the history of women.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Tell me more about time slips.
Okay. I'm just going to move right on to our next event. Because I was just going to wrap up this one with the unexplained details to further convince you and everyone else that this was a time slip. My big thing is the butcher shop that I can't. That's my thing that I can't. Like, if they confirmed that it was a residence, but at least 2 of them remember it being a butcher shop with some weird skinned animals in it, that part freaks me out a little bit. Oh, my theory, by the way, is that when you go into a time slip, maybe you can't interact with and or see the people in that time. So maybe there were people there and they just couldn't see them, which is why William felt a sense of being watched. Because he felt other people there.
But couldn't see them.
They couldn't see them.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. This next incident is the Versailles incident. And I like this one because I was recently reminded on Facebook that I went to Paris 10 years ago. And we went to Versailles. And the big thing there was that I know it was 10 years ago because we were 1 year too young to rent golf carts. You had to be 24. And we had to rent bikes. Because here's a fun fact about Versailles, which will come in useful for this story. It's really big. It's really, really big, and it's really confusing. It's a big palace, but it's also a big... Have you been?
No, I've never been to France.
It's beautiful. I really want to go back.
I would love to go to France.
Let's add it to our road trip.
I have seen very... you can drive.
Okay.
I've seen very, very little of Europe, but very, very a lot of Asia.
Nice. This is the...
I think I've seen possibly more of South America than I have of Europe.
Nice.
I've spent a couple of hours in Amsterdam for a layover. And then Greece.
Nice. I want to do Amsterdam too.
We were supposed to do Ireland and Scotland the year of COVID.
Oh.
Yeah, we were starting to plan, like we were literally like, okay, we need to start, we've got the dates because Shelton has to put his vacation in forever. Yeah. So like starting to do research, starting to put together itineraries and plans. Like I was just starting to like gather all of my research, start kind of parsing through it when COVID hit. And so we completely shifted gears from looking at international travel to buying land. And so we got our property out of it. There you go. So it's fine.
That works. Well, Paris was the only time I've ever been to Europe as a fun me thing. And I highly recommend it.
I would love to go.
It's excellent. And now this is a great reason for us to visit Versailles because we might get a time slip out of it. Okay. So you can look at your next picture because I'm going to tell you about Anne Morberly and Eleanor Jourdain.
Okay.
So this is taking place on August 10th, 1901. So Anne and Eleanor were in France together and decided to visit the Palace of Versailles. Anne was the principal of St. Hugh's College in Oxford, which was a women's college at the time. They have since become co-ed.
Woohoo.
Boo. Sorry. I mean, woohoo.
Hey, I went to an all-girls school for most of my life, or most of my, school years.
I went to a women's college, and I very much wanted to stay at women's college. I'm all about... Sorry. Men had their time. There were a lot of men's colleges. Let us have some.
No, I loved my time at my all-girls school. There was so many benefits to it.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry.
Same.
I like men. I don't like boys.
Yeah. Same. But I also like girls, so.
Me too, but not the way you do.
And that's me officially coming out on the podcast.
Let me pour you one for that.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'll take it. So we have Anne.
Mm-hmm.
She's the principal. Eleanor was about to be hired as the vice principal. And the Paris trip was a way for them to get to know each other before they became colleagues. Cool.
Whose idea was it? And, like, who was sponsoring it? Like, is it like a work? Is it an official work event, or is it just like, hey, you know it? It's summer break.
Mm-hmm.
Before I officially start, like, why don't we just take a
Hang
girls
out.
trip?
Yeah. I think one of them had, like, a family home in Paris or something. So I'm sure it was... I don't think going to Paris from England was... I think they were English or British. I don't think it was as big a deal as it might be for us. I feel like this is the equivalent of, like, you've got a home in Vermont. I'm going to go summer there with you before we become colleagues. A bit of a drive, but I'll make do. I'll figure
Honestly, I think it's a quicker trip.
it out. Probably.
By boat than to drive from here to Vermont.
We'll go stay at your cabin for a couple of weeks to get to know each other before we become further colleagues. I don't know.
We'd really get to know each other in our cabin. It's a small space.
Oh, man. So, Anne and Eleanor doing a little girls trip. So they decide they're exactly like me and Susan doing our girls trip. Susan's my best friend. She also designed our logo, by the way. Susan Jennings Designs, if you need a logo. So they go to Versailles and they toured the palace and they were like not very impressed, which I love. I'm like, Anne and Eleanor not impressed by Versailles. So they're like, well, let's see the gardens, I guess.
Did they run out of money? Because this is very Baroque.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So they're like, we're going to go see the Petit Trianon. I'm doing my best with the French here. Which is just a smaller chateau somewhere on the property. I don't know. I tried to look it up. I couldn't tell you where on that damn property it is. It's somewhere. While they were looking for it, they got lost. Because as I mentioned before, Versailles is
Very big.
very big, very confusing. It's like designed to be a garden maze. I don't know.
There's also a Versailles, Kentucky, because I went to go just look a Google map.
You know how that's pronounced? Versailles.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
There's also Paris, Kentucky.
There's Paris, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Versailles, Kentucky, the first time I went to Kentucky. And I said something. I was like, oh, Versailles. And my mom, I think, was like, no, that's Versailles. I was like,
Not for sale.
no, it's...
I was like, no, it's not. Sign.
No, it's not. And she was like, no, that's how they pronounce it. And I was like, but the one it's named, you can't just, no, we can. And we do.
Parc de Versailles. The garden.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do a very good job of being like, this is Versailles, to show you how big it is. It just kind of has,
the Wikipedia page gives you 3 locations for it.
Well, there's the Le Grand Trianon.
Yeah, but we're looking for La Petite.
Oh, that's right.
The small one.
Right next to it.
Oh, okay. I was like, find the small one, Katie. We don't want the big one.
Right there. You gotta go from Le Grand to Jardin du Roi and Jardin Français. Lots of gardens. And a cafe. Angelina Paris.
The whole thing is a garden. So they're wandering around. And as they are wandering, they pass by a deserted farmhouse and an old plow on the side of the road. Cute. And they both suddenly began to feel, quote, as if a heavy mood was oppressing their spirits. And then 2 men in, quote, long grayish-green coats with small
What's with green?
I don't know. Small 3-cornered hats passed by them.
So, What's the word I'm looking for? Reenactors?
Possibly. Well, the women thought that they might be palace gardeners, although Anne also described them as, quote, very dignified officials. So she's like, you guys look really dignified and official, but also, are you a gardener here? Because they asked them for directions. They're like, we can't find the Petite Trianon. Can you point us to it? And so the men were like, go down this path that's literally right in front of you. So they did. And the further they get down the path, the more this heavy feeling increases. And this is how Anne would describe it. Quote, everything suddenly looked unnatural, therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like wood worked in tapestry. There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees. So everything's becoming...
So it's like they walked into a painting.
Take a sip of your... Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the very next thing is that Eleanor noticed a cottage where a woman was holding a jug to a girl in the doorway, but like a freeze frame. And she said it was like a living picture, which I have that word, the French word for that, written down somewhere in here, and I will say it. I will attempt to say it later, but essentially she saw this scene and it was real people, but they were not moving.
It's kind of like my whole everything that has been and will be exists just in a freeze frame, and it's just no one's like moment of consciousness has blipped that photo to life.
Yes.
See, my crazy theories are right.
I love it so much. Okay, so they get to the end of the path, and there's a gazebo underneath some trees. And there they saw some ugly dude.
Not dignified.
In
his tri-point hat.
He was described as repulsive looking, with a face that was, they said, pitted with smallpox, which I think you need to clarify, because if he has smallpox on his face, you need to stay away from him. Mm-hmm. Smallpox scars, I think, is what they mean. He had a pockmarked face. That's what we're going for. He also looks very mean, so we're not just saying he's ugly, because we don't face shame people here.
Well, pretty is as pretty does.
True. So this is what Eleanor said about him. The expression was evil and yet unseeing, and though I did not feel that he was looking particularly at us, I felt a repugnance to going past him. So we don't like Mr. Pockmarked Face. So while they're like noticing this, suddenly some other guy runs, very chaotic situation, runs up behind him, or runs up behind them, excuse me. And this guy they describe as having, quote, large dark eyes and crisp curling black hair under a large sombrero hat. He feels out of place to me, but...
A sombrero hat.
I don't know if that means something different.
But I mean, sombrero-like? As in, like, wide-brimmed hat? Or, like, legit sombrero?
He's got large dark eyes and crisp curling black hair, so who knows?
I mean, he sounds like he's from south of the border to me.
He is also stuck in the time slip.
Yeah. It's like, I made a wrong turn. Just trying to get to Oaxaca.
So he comes up to them and's like, you guys are going the wrong way. You gotta go over there and go across that bridge. And so they're like, okay, we'll just follow directions. So they cross a bridge and they arrive at a building that they assume was the Petite Trianon. And here they saw a woman wearing, quote, a light summer dress and a shady white hat with much fair hair, sitting on a stool sketching. And they also experienced the overwhelming gloom again at this place. And I think this woman looked at them. I don't think she waved. She just looked in their direction. Mm-hmm. And then a footman put question marks there because I was like, how do you know he's a footman? My only reference for that is Cinderella. Anyways,
Downton Abbey, right? They have footmen.
I don't know.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, anything with a car or carriage or whatever.
Well,
that helps people get into them.
Well, this person suddenly came out of a nearby building, possibly the Petit Trianon, who knows, and slammed the door behind himself and told them that the entrance to the Petit Trianon was on the other side of the building. So Anne and Eleanor are like, okay, well, I guess, thank you. We'll walk around. So they go around, and when they walk around, they find a wedding party waiting for a tour, and the gloomy, heavy feeling was gone, and everything was normal again.
Sounds to me like they just took a wrong turn and went, on a little self-guided tour through the behind-the-scenes of Versailles.
Well,
I'm less impressed by their story than
the first one.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't really talk about it very much. They, finished their tour. And then 3 months later, when they were both back in England, Anne mentioned to Eleanor the woman that they had seen sketching. And Eleanor was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I didn't see a woman sketching at Versailles. So they talked a little bit about it. They both remembered, a heavy, dark feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, all right, you know what? We're both smart, educated women. We run a school.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go in different rooms, write down what we remember. So we're not influencing each other. We'll write down what we remember of that day, and then we will compare our notes. I don't know that they went to different rooms, but they wrote separate accounts independent of each other. So they do that, and when they compare their notes, they find out that they didn't necessarily see the same people. From what I could tell, it seemed like Anne saw more of the kind of strange people than Eleanor did.
I mean, you and I could walk down the street downtown and have, different experiences.
This is true.
What you notice versus what I notice can be vastly different.
True. This is true. Eleanor also decided to do some research and discovered that the day that they had visited, August 10th, was the anniversary of the insurrection of August 10th, 1792, which was the sacking of the Tuileries Palace. We're going to go with that. If you're not familiar with the French Revolution, this was when armed revolutionaries stormed the Tuileries Palace, which is not in Versailles. It's in Paris, near the Louvre. It was a big thing. They massacred a bunch of royal Swiss guards, and then, a couple months later, essentially the monarchy was abolished. So this was, kind of the end thing. Mm-hmm. So, not a good thing for the people who lived in Versailles. Mm-mm. Also, in their research, Anne came across a portrait of Marie Antoinette by Adolphe Wertmüller, which is your next picture in your dossier if you'd like to look at it. And Anne said, well, by golly, that looks just like the woman that I saw sketching in front of the Petit Trianon. She said that even the clothes she was wearing...
I love my doxy.
Even the clothes she was wearing were the same. My question...
See, that would have been a red flag for me right there.
Yeah.
If I see someone wearing clearly out of the era clothing, if I see someone wearing, full 70s regalia, I'd be like, ah, cool, hippie. Doesn't realize what year it is. That's fine. Go you. If I'm... Ugh, I didn't see anything. I totally didn't peek.
That's okay.
If I see somebody in, colonial outfit, I'm like, you must be from the Tryon Palace.
I was gonna
doing
say,
a reenactment.
We happen to live in a place that has reenactors. Yeah.
That's what I would think. But I would notice and be like, that is not a normal outfit for now.
Yeah. They did mention when they saw, or Anne mentioned when she saw the woman, that she did notice she was wearing an old-fashioned dress. My question is...
I must not have hit on that when you said it.
I don't think I said it. I said it in my head. I read it. Obviously.
See, as close as we are, I can't actually read your mind.
Just...
I know it would be a whole lot easier if I could.
I know.
But then again, it would be like spoiling all the episodes. So
we wouldn't really have a podcast. It would just be us sitting here,
just looking
giggling.
at each other.
My question to Anne is, was the hair the same? Because my understanding of Marie Antoinette all comes from that Kirsten Dunst movie.
It's a terrible movie.
I love that movie. My understanding is that the hair was a big deal and very big. And also, was the hair big? I mean, I don't know.
Or was she just Southern?
Yeah, true.
The bigger the hair, the closer to God.
Closer to God. It's true. Okay, so Anne and Eleanor both returned to the palace on several occasions and tried to retrace their steps, but they found that, quote, the grounds seemed mysteriously altered. They couldn't find the bridge, they couldn't find the gazebo, whatever. So on their own, they concluded that either the grounds were haunted and that they had encountered some ghosts, or that they may have stumbled into a memory of Marie Antoinette's from the day of the insurrection.
Were there a lot of men wearing sombreros during the insurrection?
I don't know how to explain him. He doesn't come up again. So. He was also in a time slip. I don't know what to tell you. That's...
Okay, so this reminds me of another tangent. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
All of our characters have just, like, defeated this bad guy through this kind of magic spell where they kind of all joined them, you know, to help make a super Buffy. And so they're like, oh, we're going to watch a movie, whatever. But they all fall asleep and they all have these very, like, wild dreams that are all kind of, like, very different. And then there's, like, this kind of evil, kind of lurking thing in there, like this very primitive, primal thing. But there's also the cheese guy.
Who's the cheese
and
guy?
it's just a dude. Yeah, probably in his 40s, maybe 30s, 40s. Hard to tell. He's bald, but like shaved, bald. And, you know, the first one, he's just standing there in his suit with a platter of, like, cheese slices, like deli cheese slices, and, you know, like offering the cheese. And then the next time he says something different. He has a different line, but he looks exactly the same. And then another one, and this is my favorite one, he's standing there and he's holding the cheese and he says, oh no, I think he has one like on his head. He says, I wear the cheese does not wear me. And I'm like, that's very poignant.
You're like, yes, true.
That's right. I wear the cheese. Grabs fat rolls. I wear the cheese. The cheese does not wear me. But no, I was like, I'm going to take a whole lot of hidden meaning in that statement. But, yeah, no, the cheese guy.
Was he ever explained?
No.
Okay. I was wondering
absolutely
if that's where
not.
we were going with that.
No, because that, like, you know, very primal, like, evil kind of thing that was lurking in everyone's dream does get explained later on.
But the cheese guy's
the first Slayer. But
spoilers.
No, the cheese guy is only mentioned in, like, a one-off line. You know, I think it was Buffy. I was like, at least none of y'all had the weird cheese guy. And then everyone else just kind of stopped and was like, there was a cheese guy in my dream. Did you also see the cheese guy? Do we need to be worried about the cheese guy? Like, that's all their faces saying, like, so the cheese guy is my favorite.
Okay. Nice.
But so the sombrero guy
yeah,
is the cheese guy.
Yes.
He is
exactly. He's either irrelevant or in his own time slip happening.
So now everyone needs to go and rewatch all of Buffy just for the cheese guy. I think I'm going to do that.
There you go. Perfect.
Sorry, kid. We can't watch Go Dog Go. You need to watch a feminist hero, Buffy.
Yes, exactly. It's basically the same thing.
With an epic soundtrack.
Okay. So, allegedly, according to Eleanor's research, Marie Antoinette had been sitting outside of the Petit Trianon when she was first told about the revolutionaries marching toward the palace in Paris. I did not fact check that at all. That's just what Eleanor says she found out.
Very convenient.
Very convenient. Also,
people will find anything to explain whatever thing.
That also seems like
people cannot just accept, like, wow, I have no, like, that was a weird experience and I have no explanation for that. Like, people have to find things to, like, reason. Like, your brain literally has to make things make sense.
Yeah.
Like, hence why people have, you know, delusions and whatnot. Or, like, your brain intentionally protects you from traumatic events and stuff, like, by changing, by either forgetting things, omitting, you know, details, or remembering things differently, or adding details to help make things make sense.
Yes. So Anne and Eleanor believed that this explanation of, like, being in a memory of Marie Antoinette's would explain the, like, overwhelming darkness that they felt, because they were like, well, this would have been a fearful time for her, you know, which I'm like, okay, yeah, if I will give them, if there's residual energy there and it was the anniversary, and if there is some kind of, like, residual haunting or energy that is replaying in that place, yes, maybe you could be feeling that.
I just don't feel like hearing news of the, like, mounting rebellion being traumatic enough to leave residual energy like that. I mean, especially for, like, just one person. Like, I feel like it wouldn't just be Marie Antoinette's memory. Like, it would have to be, like, a collective, a lot of people all feeling this sense of dread and impending doom, and, like, this is the beginning of the end, and, like, everything's...
And that's why I can see if, like, maybe the whole property has that kind of energy maybe on that day.
Yeah.
Because, again, I did not read very much into the history, but from what I could see, this was, like, kind of a long time coming. The Marie Antoinette and Louis the 16th, whatever, whoever she was married to, had to be, like, hidden, you know, like, kept somewhere safe while this was happening, and, like, you know, like, their entire, like, the Swiss guards were, like, their guards or whatever, and they were, like, essentially massacred, and, like, it was a very big thing, and it maybe was the moment that they realized, like, oh shit,
we're in trouble.
We might not be king and queen for much longer.
We might not be.
We might not be
much longer.
Yes. So I don't know. The residual energy, I think, is the thing that makes the most sense to me. The specific details of, like, she was sitting outside sketching when she heard the news, and it was delivered by a crispy-haired man in a sombrero. I'm like, that seems like some Ghost Adventure shit that's, like, very too specific, so... Anne and Eleanor also wrote to the Society for Psychical Research, so 50 years before our boys and other boys did, whatever. But the society was not interested in women. Or them, I don't know.
I'm shocked.
So Anne and Eleanor were like, fuck you guys, we're going to do our own investigation on this. Which eventually resulted in the publication of a book in 1911 called An Adventure.
See, this is also the time when people are doing, like, a pamphlet with the title as long as half of the pamphlet.
Yeah. Undersold the name here.
An adventure. That doesn't...
It was an adventure.
Yeah,
So.
sure. All right.
It was published under a pseudonym, or under 2 pseudonyms. And according to their research, which I sound like that girl from the Magic School Bus. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I've actually recently watched.
Oh, according to my research, this is what they presented as their evidence. And again, I didn't have time to fact check this, so whatever. An old plow was or had been kept on the grounds of Versailles in 1789, but none had been kept there in 1901. They couldn't locate the bridge that they had crossed on later trips, although they confirmed its existence in 1789. The men in green coats they had seen were wearing Swiss Guard uniforms, although every picture I have found of Swiss Guards, they are wearing red coats, so I'm not sure about that. And you can look at your next picture, by the way, because that has a Swiss Guard uniform in it.
I totally didn't accidentally see that.
That's okay. And then the mean-looking, pockmarked man...
Where is his tri-pointed hat?
Is he not wearing one in that picture?
No, he's wearing a big poofy, like,
I don't know.
very reminiscent of the guards at Buckingham.
Listen, if you Google Swiss Guards, France...
Garde Suisse.
Guard Suisse. You get a bunch of different results. They're all wearing red coats, though. So, anyways. The mean-looking, pockmarked man matched pictures and or descriptions, of... You want to read that name for me?
Joseph Hyacinthe Francois de Poil de Regard.
Thank you. Is there not another name attached to that? Did I forget to type that one out? Vaudreuil?
No.
Okay.
You didn't type it.
Just kidding. I slacked
Joseph?
on those notes. Joseph.
Hyacinth. I like that.
I like Hyacinth.
Francois de Paul de Regard.
Anyways, he was someone that Marie Antoinette hated. And I guess,
she only liked pretty things. Just kidding.
I guess maybe in descriptions he had a pockmarked face. He certainly does not in that picture. So
Well, no, because it's a portrait.
I know.
And he could tell the artist airbrush
Clear up my skin.
airbrush the acne scars.
And then the last piece of evidence is that the door that the footman had come rushing out of was bolted shut, although they had seen him come out and slam the door. They also published the accounts that they had written separately as proof that they couldn't have known these historical details without having actually seen them. And then after their deaths, which Eleanor died in 1924 and Anne died in 1937, their identities were revealed as the authors of this book. And the fact that they were both respected academics caused even more, like, I don't want to say controversy, but like,
Oh crap, maybe we should actually accept, the stuff of this book.
It's like, oh, we thought this was just kind of like crazy, but like, smart lady wrote it. Not just any lady. Smart lady.
Two smart ladies.
Two smart ladies. Oops. In 1950, it was revealed, though, that their original accounts had probably been written around 1906 instead of 1901, like they had
Right
originally
after it
said.
happened.
Yeah. Which kind of discredited a lot of what they were claiming.
Yeah, because that's 5 years after the fact. And that's like...
And that's while they're
I
doing
can't
research.
tell you...
Yeah.
Okay, so Argentina. 6 years ago, according to Facebook memories, if I were to go home and say, hey, Shelton, remember when we did that tour in Montevideo? What was the story about the park with the fence with the interesting design? He might have an entirely different story than I do.
Yeah.
Even though we both were on the same tour.
Yeah.
But 6 years is a long time
Well,
to try and remember something.
and also every time you tell a story, you tell it a little differently. You remember it differently.
That's right. Every time you access a memory, it changes.
It changes.
And so, like, on one hand, that's why I'm always like, well, I love talking about, you know, my mom because I like remembering, but at the same time, I'm afraid of altering those memories every time I access them.
Yeah. Are you ready to hear the possible explanations? Because the first one's the best one.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I would like to. Still, so far, much less impressed with their adventure than the three boys.
Yeah. Although I would love to have a time slip in Versailles. Like a real one.
I'd love to just be in Versailles.
I mean, that too. You feel like you're in a time slip already. Like, I will say when we went, it blessedly wasn't that crowded. Mm-hmm. We went in November, which is the off season. Mm-hmm. Great time to go to Paris. Highly recommend. And we went to the little, I don't know what it's called, the little peasant village that Marie Antoinette made for herself. And, like, you can look, I mean, all the buildings are, like, you know, boarded up. But you can, like, look in there, like, look into the windows, and there's still, like, just laying around like it's frozen in time. Like you're in a time slip. So.
There's a museum in Florida that I love. It's the Museum of Naval Aviation, and they've got, like, a little hallway that you literally, you know, can walk through and, like, look, over there is the Blue Plate Diner, or like the diner with the Blue Plate special, and then right next to it is the general store, and you can kind of walk into it, and the shelves are lined with actual cans of things from the 40s, and then you look over here, and that's the inside, like, that's the kitchen of, you know, a home in 1942, and I love walking through museums like that,
so
where
cool.
It's like you just walk through frozen in time.
I love that. My nostalgia right now is, oh my gosh. Okay, so apparently there's a French poet named Robert de Montesquieu. Robert. And he lived near Versailles in the early... Robert, sorry. Pardon. He lived near Versailles in the early 1900s. And he was known to throw parties on the grounds where he and his friends would dress up in period costumes and perform, here's the word, tableaux vivants, living pictures, as, like, party games or what the fuck.
There's an episode of Gilmore Girls where they do the living pictures, right?
I don't know.
And it's in Arrested Development, too.
Oh my gosh, it is! I'm rewatching that.
Me too!
If you didn't notice when you came over, that's what was on.
I didn't notice, but I was, like, that's been my, okay, I'm doing housework, I need noise on in the background.
I love it. And just a fun note about Robert. Apparently, he was outrageously flamboyant, aspired to be the most photographed man in the world, and was friends with multiple celebrities. Also described as, quote, the most famous dandy in Paris. And when I read that, I read it as the most famous daddy in Paris. What the fuck?
Go away, jerk. You're not part of this.
Yeah, you're not in on that joke. Anyways,
I mean, daddy or dandy, like...
Safe to say he probably was a daddy also.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously the implication here is that perhaps he was having a party and they, like you said, kind of stumbled upon this kind of private party that they weren't really supposed to be a part of.
Well, I mean, they did mention something about a wedding. Like, that could have been a picture that they were recreating, too, with the wedding.
Mm-hmm. True. I just...
Was he wearing a sombrero?
Oh, my God. I don't know. I mean, not in any of the pictures that I saw, but I'm gonna have to read a biography about this man or something.
Yeah, please do.
I like briefly read part of his Wikipedia page and got the most famous dandy/daddy in Paris. And
is there not a photo?
No, I didn't put him in here.
The man who aspired to be the most photographed man, and you don't even have a picture of him in my dog CA.
Spoiler, he was not the most photographed man. It was the early 1900s. There were like 12 cameras. I mean,
he might have been in his time. I mean, certainly not now. Like, I'm pretty sure the most photographed man is probably actually a dog.
True. A dog
or a cat. It's probably Grumpy Cat.
Yeah.
Even though Grumpy Cat's a girl.
Really?
Pretty sure, yeah. I think her name was actually Tartar sauce.
Oh.
Yeah, she died.
It's sad.
Yeah.
There's still Wilfred the cat. You can follow him.
Diabetes.
Another possible explanation. Literary scholar Terry Castle suggested that their experience was a result of a lesbian folie à deux? Is that how D?
Oh, a what now?
Okay, hold on. Tell me if I'm saying D-E-U-X. Deux? Duh. Okay. A folie à deux. So this is a psychological disorder. And it's when symptoms of a delusion or a hallucination are transmitted from one person to another. And it's very rare. So I think that explanation is unlikely.
What does this have to do with lesbians?
I think she's implying that they were lesbians. Which I don't dislike that theory. I mean, I think that's a fun, like, kinky twist to things.
I mean, sure, but I also...
But I don't think it has any bearing on who's transferring psychosis to another person.
See, that's what I have the problem with is, like, its association to some sort of mental illness. It's like, I don't, like, I'm fine if they were lesbians, but, like, don't just assume they were because they had some sort of mental issue. Because I know that there was a point in time that, like, homosexuality was seen as a mental illness.
Yeah.
But, like, that's why I'm like, I don't like that you just say...
Could have been...
lesbian mental fallacy.
Could have been a friendship folie à deux. Regular one. A platonic friendship.
One of my best friends, when I was high school, college, early adulthood, Shanley, we were so close and, like, always together, and people were like, oh, are they lesbians? Like, yeah, no, that's my girlfriend, for sure. Actually, we were wives. And it was in high school, somebody, like, made some joke about, Shanley and our friend Kimberly, and like, oh, they're gay together, and they're like, yeah, no, we're married. And then we've actually got photos of the day that I became the third wife, and all three of us were wives, and we were out boating, and we went out to the sandbar, and there was a beach, and they proposed to me, and everything.
Aww.
They wrote on the sand, like, will you marry us, Katy? And I was like, yes, I will. So we became the wives.
I like that.
Because heaven forbid.
I know. God forbid.
Heaven forbid girls just hang out and say, like, oh, I love you. You're my best friend. I love you. And whatever. Well, we must be gay, obviously.
Truthfully, I find it so upsetting and disturbing. A couple weeks ago, when all of my male coworkers told me that, like, they don't touch not touch each other, but, like, they're like, oh yeah, I don't hug other guys. I don't, like...
How sad for them.
I was like, God, how sad for you. I was like, I was just, like, laying on a couch with 3 other girls, like, sandwiched between them, and it was, like, the best day of my life. We were watching TikTok videos together. I was like, what do you mean you don't touch... Like, you don't hug each other? You don't say you love each other? Like... God, you need more, like, human contact. Like, how sad for you. Yeah. Like, I'm so sorry that your masculinity is so fragile. But, like, man, you gotta get, like, I don't know, see a therapist or get a dog or something. Like,
No, because, like...
I don't know.
I'm just thinking, like... I mean, growing up, having sleepovers with the girls.
I know.
Sharing a bed. Like, I've shared a bed with my girlfriends
I know.
for years and years and years. Like, if I didn't have a husband I had to share with, like, I'd still be sharing a bed. Like, honestly, if we were to have a girls' weekend at the cabin and, you know, it's you, me, and B, and Taylor, and maybe even Steph, just any number, like, and obviously there was more people than beds, then, like, we'd all be sharing beds with other girls, and, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if the guys would do that.
Guys are just so weird.
They're so weird.
I don't know. It's hug your friends, guys.
I think there's only, like, 2 things that I won't share with my girlfriends.
Toothbrush.
Toothbrush and underwear.
Fair. That's fair.
I mean, I would have no problem offering my underwear to share with some, because, like,
Yeah.
I'll give you the shirt off my back.
Yeah.
I won't give you the underwear off my crotch.
Yeah.
I'll give you a fresh pair from the drawer.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to seek out. So, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever be like, Hannah, can I please borrow a pair of underwear?
But honestly, if you ask,
If
you'd be
I-
like, well,
Yeah, if I asked, you'd be
Sure.
like, yeah,
of
here you go.
course. What kind do you want? I just had the one kind. So
Not a thought.
we don't believe in those in this house. So no. Okay, well, the lesbian thing. So one theory is that they were lesbians, and that explained it.
Lesbians and mentally ill.
Yes, lesbians,
Mentally
and
ill.
mentally ill. And I have a note here just because I thought it was worth mentioning. Anne would later, and by later I mean in 1914. So she went on to become. She was the one. Was she vice principal? I don't remember.
I think she was the principal, and Eleanor became the vice principal.
Correct. I was like, I can't be bothered to go
remem-
back in
I
my
remember
notes, but
things.
I just did. Okay. So, oh no, I read this wrong. Never mind. Okay. And we're back. Okay. So Anne would later, in 1914, claim to see the ghost of Emperor Constantine in the Louvre. And Eleanor would eventually become principal of the college, and also would become involved in an academic scandal involving her leadership skills. My understanding is there was concerns about her leadership skills. A lot of people resigned while she was in charge. Also, she believed that there was a German spy hiding at the college. And then she died right in the middle of that scandal, kind of suddenly.
She probably was losing her marbles.
Yeah, so I don't know if there was actually any mental illness in either one of them. I don't think that explanation is, like, a good one.
No,
My favorite explanation is that Robert was throwing a fun party.
That's the one I think is honestly probably most plausible.
I know, I love that.
Because especially if you take into account that they didn't write down these accounts, these memories,
Right.
until 5 years later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if they had written them down, again, like I said earlier, you and I can walk down the street and have 2 completely different experiences. You'll notice things that I don't, vice versa. I mean, even if they did write it down, 3 months later,
Yeah.
they'd probably remember things differently, especially if it was 5 years later.
Yeah.
So it makes sense they would have similar but differing accounts. And then the party thing just makes so much sense.
I know. I would love to be able to confirm that. Like, maybe I'll do a little bonus episode on Robert, because
He's definitely a bonus episode worthy.
Okay. Are you ready for your final little bonus?
Yeah.
Little bonus
My
piece?
silly story.
Yes. Okay. So our last little thing is I'm going to tell you about Marcello Pellegrino Ernetti.
Okay.
who was a highly respected Roman Catholic priest. He was one of the most prolific exorcists from Venice. I don't know if he was...
Oh boy. A prolific exorcist.
I know.
Okay. I am on board.
That doesn't come up again, so sorry. He was also an expert.
Well, he's clearly whatever he's an expert in, obviously he's got to, like, know his stuff. If he's a prolific exorcist, he is definitely a credible source for anything and everything that you have to tell me.
Are you ready for what he's an expert in?
Probably not.
Gregorian chants.
Sorry, let me replace. Oh my goodness. Sorry, there's probably way too high.
That's okay.
Pitches there.
So good qualifications, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad you talked about how qualified he was.
Yes.
How, because in the 1950s, Ernetti, our buddy, claimed to have developed a device that allowed you to watch events from the past. And it was called the chronovisor. And
I love names for dumb inventions like that.
not only did he claim that he developed this, he said 12 scientists allegedly helped, including Dr. Werner von Braun of NASA fame. Mind you, I don't think he publicly said his name until after von Braun had died, so von Braun couldn't be like,
Couldn't
that's some
refute it.
bullshit. Bold move.
I mean, that's the way to do it.
I know, right? I'm like, you could say anything, I guess. Don't do that. That's how you get sued. So this device, the chronovisor, I'm going to describe it for you. It has several antennae, 3 of which are made of mysterious metals and meant to pick up sound and light waves across their respective spectrums. It also has a direction finder, which you are supposed to tune to a specific era or time period. And then it has a recording device to capture footage and a screen on which to watch said footage. So,
What? No flux capacitor?
no. It's a very simple device.
Well, clearly can't be successful without a flux capacitor.
Well, so I don't know if you caught this, but you are...
Does it take 1.21 gigawatts?
Unclear. I don't have
power
the...
it?
Listen, I don't have the
power it.
blueprints.
Was Emmett Brown one of the scientists?
I don't know. He didn't release it. Actually, I don't know. Von Braun's the only one I cared about. So I don't know if you caught on to this, but the chronovisor does not transport you to another time.
It's a television.
It's
a television.
Yes,
it plays recordings.
It looks into the past for you.
I've got a chronovisor right here. If I just open up different
gosh.
apps,
Oh my god.
I can watch the past.
Wow. Let me get...
Here, I got a image of the past. I can pull up. Let's see. Where is it going? Elephant. I just love when he throws things, especially, when he throws rocks in the creek or apparently toys in the tub. Oh!
It's very cute.
My chronovisor shows adorable past moments.
It does. That's shocking, truly. Well, let me tell you what Ernetti claimed to have seen through his chronovisor.
Oh my goodness.
various historical events. Marcus Cicero's speech to the Roman Senate in 63 BC, which we're all familiar with, obviously.
Oh, that was one of those you had to be there moments.
Had to be there, truly. The founding of the Roman Empire, small.
Nothing.
Single moment, also. Not a thing that happened over time. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh, wow, we're getting biblical.
Oh, I should mention, the reason he developed this is because he wanted to be able to show biblical events specifically to prove that the Bible was real or correct. So there's an agenda.
Okay. We're not. Nope. I'm not taking the bait. I'm not doing it.
Okay. So the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Obviously, these would be on your list too, right? If we're gonna watch any moment in history.
If you put on the History Channel, that's what I want to watch.
Obviously. The Last Supper. And then, obviously, everyone's favorite, the crucifixion of Jesus.
Nothing like a good old-fashioned snuff film.
Uh-huh. And... okay.
Did you also go watch The Birth of Christ, too?
Oh, no. That's our Christmas episode. We can't...
You know, that happened in, like, July or the summertime, right?
Katie, do you want to know what your last picture in your dossier is?
Yes, I have to
hold on,
see.
before you look. It's a picture that Ernetti provided that came from the chronovisor from when he witnessed the crucifixion. So it's an actual picture of the crucifixion of Jesus. So I just want you to be prepared for what you're going to see.
It's a picture of a painting. Oh my god, I was not prepared. And it was upside down. I was not prepared. What is this?
This is a photograph, obviously, Katie, of a real human being with flesh on his body. Obviously. It's definitely
rolling his eyes.
Obviously, that's a photograph. Doesn't it look like one? This is the whole reason I had to include this. Because as soon as I found this picture... if you squint your eyes, if that was... I don't even think they obviously didn't print it very small because you can see the newsprint beside it.
Uh-huh.
They blew that thing up real big. Oh, man. An Italian magazine published an article about the device in 1972 with this picture from the crucifixion. And they literally were like, a device that allows you to see into the past has finally been invented, you guys. And they posted this picture with it. Hold it up to one of the actual pictures there, just as a... exactly the same. I can't tell the difference. Who's who?
Okay, so you know those awesome Dog Park Brews t-shirts that I've made that I made Shelton that has, you know, the Joy Pit Pale Ale or the Olive Pit Pale Ale and the Joy Monster IPA. Mm-hmm. You know how I make those images of the dogs?
Oh.
Is I take a picture of the dog and I make it black and white, and then I I print it out, and then I heavily draw around all the lines of things with black marker, and then I scan it. And I change the white balance a lot, so it really only picks up the dark lines. And I have to do it a couple of times. That's what they did with this photo. because, I have to make it a line drawing so that
Uh-huh.
it's easier, stencil to screen print. I could screen print this.
When I went looking for this picture,
It's just a dude looking up, like,
but it's also very clearly a painting of a dude looking up. It's very clearly not an actual dude.
and the longer I look at it, the weirder his nose looks.
He was Jewish. Be nice.
I have a huge nose. I'm never ever gonna make fun of somebody's nose. I'm saying the way that the white it's when we say it's a black and white photo, it is black
there are no gray
and
tones.
white. There is no gray.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm sure that wasn't just the, let me look. I was gonna say, I'm sure that's not just the version that I printed. Coronavisor, Jesus. Nope, it's like that well, here's a slightly...
Is there some grays?
There's a little bit of gray. It's comparing it to a painting. But not...
It's not the same painting. It's similar.
Yeah, but I would argue with the grays, it makes it look less human, or less human, I don't know. Anyways, whatever. This picture I showed Katie is very clearly not a photograph of a human. And luckily...
Or if it is, it's just been overexposed and, like, reprinted several times. It is not a photograph.
Yeah.
Like, even if they had taken a photograph of, like, if they were watching TV and paused it and taken a photograph.
And it reminds me, which I feel like we are never going to do an episode on the Nottingham fairies, which I still can't believe I don't think you know about them.
Mm-mm.
But it's when the children convinced the adults that they were playing with fairies, and they were like, let's take pictures and then we'll prove it. And they took pictures, and the adults were like, oh my gosh, there's fairies. And you look at the pictures, and it's literally like fairies that they have cut out of books and put in the pictures with them. And you feel like any human would look at that and be like, that's a two-dimensional drawing.
Yes, but I see a lot of those AI photos on Facebook now, and I'm like, clearly that's AI, and then I go look at the comments, and they're like, oh, beautiful work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that woman did not actually crochet that giant life-size lion. You can tell because she has 12 fingers on both hands, because I read somewhere, like how to identify like what to look for to identify AI photos, and they're like, always look for the hands. The hands, for some reason, always look kind of weird. But then, I go look at, there's like some photo that's clearly AI, and it's like, oh, proof that Jesus is real or something like that. And then I go look at all the comments. I'm like, oh, you're so blessed, and like, praise Jesus, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, a computer made that.
Cottingley fairies. I said the name wrong.
Not Jesus, a computer.
Yes. That's the picture, by the way.
Beautiful work.
Like, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle saw that and was like, fairies are real. This is proof. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle famously believed in fairies. Anyways, luckily in 1972, most of the world was a little smarter, because they did immediately look at that picture and say, that's not real. You got that from a postcard. And they found the postcard that he got it from and debunked it. But until his death in 1994, Ernetti maintained that the coronavisor was not only real, but that it was hidden away in the Vatican.
Of course it is.
And this is a quote. Pope Pius the 12th.
That's right, because Pope Pius the 13th was my history teacher.
Oh, wait.
It's an inside joke between me and all of my classmates.
I was like, wait.
For some reason, we dubbed, I can't remember the reason why, but we dubbed my history teacher, Mr. Cortez. Awesome. One of the best teachers I've ever had. It's Pope Pius, but Pope Pius the 13th.
Nice.
And so we were in the freak corner, aka all the kids with like ADHD.
Put you all in one corner.
Put
That's
us
so
all
smart.
in one corner. But we had a ringleader. I don't think she had the ADHD, but she was like somehow the ringleader of all the freaks. And we followed her.
Don't think she had
And she, like, we all had titles. And she was like the Archbishop. Forget what my title was.
Oh.
So, like, but we all like wrote our names silly. Like mine was a backwards. No, I was Katy, but my Y was backwards or something. And I think her name was Anna, and I think she had like an upside down A. Basically, because, you know, we wrote freak, it's PHREEC.
Nice.
And then corner. We all had our like names and titles on paper taped to our desks. I don't know. It was a wild year.
What year? What grade?
Sophomore?
Nice.
Freshman? Somewhere around there. Again,
that seems very on point for that age of my life.
all I know about history, like all of my history knowledge, my best like recollection of it is all things that I learned from that teacher.
Oh, nice.
He was just an awesome teacher.
Good job. Pope Pius the 13th.
Pope Pius the 13th.
Well, Pope Pius...
You're great, Mr. Cortez. I hope either you or somebody you know listens so that they can forward this to you.
You can hear all the cool history we know now.
Yeah.
I say we, like, you didn't teach me, so... Free pass on that one. Well, Pope Pius the 12th, according to...
That's why we went with the 13th, because we looked it up.
Ernetti. He said, Pope Pius XII forbade us to disclose any details about this device because the machine was very dangerous. It can restrain the freedom of man.
I thought it was just supposed to... You were just supposed to be able to look at the history, not be, enslaved by it.
Yeah, unclear how it can restrain the freedom of man.
The reason he made it was to show the non-believers.
To show that the Bible was true.
Yeah. So...
Seems like you're afraid of something.
Okay. So he just wanted to show that the Bible was real and, like, the truth, stories in the Bible that were true. But by doing that, you're restricting the freedom of man. So are you saying that religion is a chokehold on society?
Are you saying that we shouldn't know the truth about history? Also, this sounds suspiciously like you saw some stuff about the Bible or biblical events that you don't want the rest of the world to know about.
Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. I feel like he probably saw something where Jesus was like, I really like the gays. And they were like, no. Rewind. Erase.
I feel like the thing doesn't actually exist.
Oh,
or
okay,
whatever,
you're on that part.
or whatever does exist doesn't work like the way he says it does.
You know what I'm picturing is one of those, what are they called? The thing you look through and do the clicky thing and the wheel.
The visor
thing. It's because it's got the visor name in it. That's what I'm picturing.
I'm picturing the time travel device from Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that!
I'm picturing that hooked up to a television set.
Nice.
And so where he's got like the joystick stuck between his legs. He's like watching, the Passion of the Christ. And then getting electrocuted in the balls from this machine. It'll probably make you think a whole lot of crazy things.
Oh, man. Anyways, that was my episode on time slips. I still really want a time...
This is just completely devolved. Like, we started out up here, like, okay, this is...
we're, like, very structured.
Yeah. And then just...
I had an outline for this, too. I was like, and I'm going to talk about this, and this, and this. And then we're going to conclude. And it just...
No.
Once I found that Jesus picture, I was like...
Oh, yeah, no. It was like kind of a... All right, we're up here. I'm like, oh, that one... The little less gets interesting, and like we start getting into some of the explanations. We're like, well, that was a step. Like, oh, well, it was a lesbian crazy town.
It's because they were
lesbians.
lesbians.
Lesbian mental disorder. Like, well, you just lost some credibility there. We're gonna go a little
The finest daddy in all of Paris. Oh, this one is fun. I might need to do a shirt for that one.
The finest daddy and all.
I don't think I quoted that right. Was it the finest daddy or the finest?
Can we use this picture? It says the finest daddy in all of Paris.
Yes. We're gonna use the picture of Jesus, everyone.
Should it be at all of Paris or should it be at all of Jerusalem? I'm sorry, is it bad to be making these jokes around Christmas time?
No, it's his birthday.
Heaven forbid we,
the most famous daddy in all of Paris.
What were we saying?
The finest. He's the most famous.
I like the finest daddy in all of
Well,
Paris.
Jesus is the most famous.
Okay, but can we put a sombrero on him?
Yes. He was... It all makes sense. He was the sombrero'd man.
There we go. Because the darker hair.
The dark curls. Oh my gosh. Everything makes sense now. Oh, man. It's a Thursday, you guys.
Well, I mean, you're the one who brought out the finest daddy in all of Paris.
The most famous daddy.
I like finest.
Oh.
I've already got one logo that I've got in my brain that I need to draw out, and I've just been lazy, and now I've got another one. So, if you want to see the pictures that start out normal and devolve into
Chaos.
the chronovisor, again, check out our Facebook and Instagram, The Tales We Tell Podcast. Want to see the pictures but don't do the social media? taleswetellpodcast.com. If you want to support us and get yourself some sweet, sweet swag, or, Christmas presents. I don't know what that was. Check out our Redbubble store. Search The Tales We Tell. We've got several different logos, and you can put that on anything.
Hell yeah.
And if you want to support us but you don't need the stuff, you can become patrons at patreon.com. Search The Tales We Tell. We've got some fun bonus content. Patrons also get early access, commercial-free listening, sometimes stickers and love notes, and as always, our undying love and affection.
Always.
And on that note, we will see you guys next week.
With something fun.
Something. We don't... Where do we go from here?
I sort of know where we go from here. I've already forgotten our schedule, so I'll write
Back to Illinois. Let's go find the finest dandy and the finest daddy in all of Illinois.
Guys, put in your submissions. I have my vote. No, I don't.
No, I don't know anyone.
I just
from
remembered
Illinois.
that William Hirons was 17 when he was arrested, so never mind.
Yeah, no, it's weird when we're like, ooh, he's attractive. Oh,
he's a child. Oops.
Underage. Even though he's also
Dead.
definitely older than us and dead, or
yeah. Oops. I'm gonna go look at pictures of Pedro Pascal. He's the
finest daddy.
Finest daddy in my heart.
I'm gonna go home and see the finest daddy in my heart.
Nice.
AKA my husband.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm also gonna go see my husband. Also the daddy of my heart. I'm not I can't call him that. That was weird.
Yeah. He's not a dad.
That's gross.
Like, he might be a dog dad, but like this doesn't make him a daddy.
It's not. I can't. Pedro's the only one I can do the daddy with. Anyways. Bye-bye.